guys, so I found a little bit of time to record a couple of videos in this super busy schedule, man. And really quick, man, I've been reading this book called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Basically, I'm not gonna put it in a super long story. Long story short, it talks about how to overcome that voice inside of your head that always stops you from committing and making progress overall. But like I said, man, we got a couple of videos to film, and I wanted to do this one first because I feel like this is something that I've always wanted to share with you guys and just kind of share my thoughts on, and that's how to make better photographs, or for the title of this video, how to make better street photographs. And we're gonna go over some of the things that I've practiced over the years to improve and get better every single time I go out with my camera. That's kind of the main goal for the most part when I go out there and make photographs anyway, because I know that not every single time I'm gonna be able to come out with bangers. And so the main objective when I go out to shoot is to improve in some certain way, maybe learn a new skill, maybe experiment, but ultimately just to improve in photography. I gotta go set up the lights real quick, 1 sec. Alright, we're gonna go with it. So I wanted to make this video today really quick just to talk a little bit about how to make better street photographs. Go over some of the thoughts that I have with kind of my philosophy behind how I improved, at least. I don't think I can speak for others, but I know I can speak for myself. And so I'm going to share with you guys a little bit about kind of the progression of my street photography journey so far. Now, a little background really quick. Let me pull up my notes here. I started street photography probably 2-3 years ago. I don't know exactly when the interest started coming along. I do remember though watching YouTube videos and getting really interested in not only film cameras, but street photography. And one of the things that I really loved about this entire style is being able to go out there with a minimal amount of gear and just being able to capture things that are out and about. You don't really need set subjects. You don't need to have different lighting, you know, gadgets or whatnot. You just needed a camera and your legs to walk around. And it made for this completely kind of free form type of photography that I personally thought was super cool. Now, I started out with portrait photography and later realized that it really kind of wasn't for me. In terms of how to improve with street photography, it's very hard to kind of communicate that with others because with street photography, there are really no rules. You break the boundary. It's actually encouraged that you do things that other people don't. And so with that said, what I'm about to say may seem a little ironic in a sense because I'm kind of giving you guys my pathway to how I did it, but I want you guys to understand that there's no, you know, set way to do things. These are just my kind of tips on how I improved my own street photography. And I haven't learned it all. I'm not saying I did, but I do want to throw this video out there for those of you guys who may need a little boost in inspiration or motivation, especially because of this whole entire COVID-19 stay-at-home shelter-in-place order. Man, I need to clean my camera up. Check this out. There's a lot of dust all up in this hot shoe. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about in how to make better street photographs is basically getting over the mindset of always trying to make good photographs. And that's a very hard thing to do. But a mindset that I instilled early on in my journey was to make sure that I don't down myself on the days that I don't make any good photographs. So if I go out, excuse me, for a couple of hours of a day and I don't make anything worthwhile, I don't want to look back on it and say I regret that time out there, because that time was spent gaining more experience out on the street. It was more time spent with my camera, and ultimately it was more time spent learning. But the main point is this: you're out there making photographs, and I truly feel like in street photography the best way to learn is to put yourself through these experiences. You know, not even having to think too much about it, just get out there and start learning. All of your learning is gonna really come out there. About 99% of what you're gonna know about street photography is based off of your experience actually doing it. The second kind of thing that I would want to talk about, folks, has to do with your camera gear. And if you guys are very much into gear like I am, if you own multiple camera bodies, I want to challenge you really quick and just say stick with one piece of gear and learn that camera and that lens combination. And if you shoot film, that film stock, learn that entire setup until like you know every individual thing about that system. The reason why I say this is because your camera, while you're out there making street photographs, needs to be ready at any given point in time. If something happens in front of you and you can't react quickly, or you can't set up your camera because you don't know, how to set up the aperture correctly in a quick way, you're gonna miss that photograph. And so my tip for you guys would be to just stick with one camera setup, a camera setup that you're confident in, a camera setup that you enjoy. Learn the ins and outs of it. Challenge yourself for 6 months to go out there, when you make street photographs at least, to use that camera only and that lens. Stick with one camera. Learn that thing inside and out. This could be a good thing for those of you guys who have gear acquisition syndrome. Don't buy too much gear. Stick with one piece of gear that you trust. Continue to use it every single time you go out for 6 months. One way to get better photographs in general is to work towards a certain goal. That's just with anything in life. You're going to be more productive when you work towards a goal. So one way for photographers to set goals for themselves is not to be in the habit or mindset of, I want to make good photographs every single time I go out. Scratch that mindset. It's a very toxic mindset and you're going to be very disappointed. Instead, something that I do is work towards projects that have particular themes. So I mentioned Crosswalk in 2019, which was like a 6-month project. I photographed scenes at crosswalks. It had a theme. It put me in a place, in an environment which I kind of understood and knew, and that's where I made those photographs. When you set themes and projects for yourself, not only does it give you more of an incentive to go out to make photographs, but now you're starting to look for little things here and there. And these little details are what make the photographs blossom. And you never know with street photography what can happen in these particular themes that you may go out and choose to shoot with. So there's people who photograph people in suits. There's people who photograph crosswalks. There's people who photograph, for example, sunsets. And when you set themes like that and you make a body of work around that theme, it gives the photographer more of a mindset to work towards something rather than just to try to make random good street photographs, if that makes any sense. Think about it for a little bit. I suggest you buy a little journal. I have a journal that I write all of my ideas in, and then I work towards photo projects, and then that's where most of my cohesive work comes from. Let's see, we still got battery and 17%, we're good. Now the last thing that I want to talk about has to do more with studying street photography and analyzing your photographs. So when you look back at your work and you look through the countless negatives or digital files that you may have, most of your ideas for street photography have already been done. Let's just get that out of the water. You've seen it somewhere and you've not replicated it, but you've done something in a similar fashion. This is something that we have to accept and understand in order for us to progress and move forward. And one way I think of it is this way. You can learn the basics, you can get inspired by other people's photography on Instagram or through photobooks, study it, learn everything that you can, soak it up like a sponge. But when it's time for you to make photographs, one thing that I would always tell myself constantly during that crosswalk project, for example, is how can I make this already kind of good image in my head better? How can I elevate that? And really what I was telling myself was to not only improvise, but to innovate. Innovation is what every photographer needs in order to make a world-changing photograph. If you can innovate on top of the already great ideas that you possess, that innovation can lead you to some of the most creative and some of the most magical looking street photographs that have ever been made. And so think of it, man, go on Instagram right now and just look up street photography and look at how many photographs on that hashtag page look the same or similar. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's people's styles, sometimes it's their aesthetic. But one way to stand out and just to make better photographs overall is to learn how to innovate. Add your own personal touch to it. Whatever feels right in your heart, whatever looks right in your eyes, do what you feel is right and shoot with integrity that is true to yourself. If you want to make a photograph a certain way, but inside of your head you say, oh, but that person didn't do it this way, fuck that. Do what you feel like is best for you. Because once you start to let some of that personal creativeness leach into your photography, that's when your true creative style will start to come out, and overall you're gonna make far better photographs than you were replicating or doing things that are similar to the status quo. So that's kind of the little video that I had for you guys. Again, it's not a very formal video, but I wanted to bring this up to your guys' attention because I hope this video helps somebody out there. And remember folks, there are no rules to street photography and the boundaries can only be pushed so far. Learn to innovate and make some amazing photographs. This has been KingJvpes and I'll see you guys in the next one. Minolta gang. Deuces, y'all.